The emergency room doors exploded inward at 2:47 a.m., not with chaos, but with terrifying control. Conversation died instantly. Even the police officers near the intake desk straightened without understanding why. The man who entered moved like violence wrapped in expensive fabric, 6'3" of controlled menace in a black suit so pristine it seemed wrong in a place that smelled of blood and antiseptic. His eyes swept the room once, calculating, measuring threats with the precision of someone who'd survived by seeing danger before it arrived. Behind him, 3 men carried an elderly woman whose lips had gone blue. Help her. 2 words, not loud, not angry, but absolute. Final. Maya Torres didn't hesitate. Gurney, now. Her voice cut through the frozen moment like a scalpel. The men obeyed instantly, which told Maya everything she needed to know about the man giving orders without raising his voice. As she checked the woman's vitals, every instinct she'd honed in 12 years of emergency medicine screamed warnings. This man was dangerous, not the loud kind who threatened and postured, the quiet kind who didn't need to threaten twice. He watched Maya like she was the only thing in the room that mattered. I'm Maya Torres, senior trauma nurse. She kept her voice steady, professional. If you want her to survive, you step back and let me work. For 3 heartbeats, no one breathed. The man's jaw tightened, a muscle jumping with tension. Then he moved back, and Maya knew this wasn't just power. This was a man who'd never been helpless until this exact moment. Because as his mother gasped for air, Maya noticed his hands trembling, noticed the way his shoulders locked, not with anger, but with restraint so fierce it looked painful. Noticed the way his eyes dropped when the attending physician asked a question about medical history that he clearly couldn't answer. Maya leaned closer, her voice dropping to something softer. Sir, I need you to stay calm. Let me help her. What she was about to discover would tie her life to his war and force them both to trust each other when the city turned violence, because the secret she'd uncover wouldn't just threaten them, it would make them targets for people who buried problems with bullets. And if you've ever wondered whether some people are worth the danger they bring, subscribe now, because by the time you realize who deserves to survive this story, it might already be too late. Maya's hands moved with practiced speed, her mind already running differential diagnoses with the efficiency that came from years in Chicago's most violent emergency department. Mrs. Chen, according to the chart Gloria shoved at her, was clutching her abdomen with trembling fingers, her breathing shallow and fast, pulse weak at 96, blood pressure dropping, temperature spiking at 102.3. Classic signs of something catastrophic happening internally. When did the pain start? Maya asked, her fingers already palpating the abdomen with firm but gentle pressure. This morning. The man's voice was tight. She said it was nothing. She always says it's nothing. Right lower quadrant tenderness, guarding, possible rebound. Maya spoke more to herself than anyone else. I need a surgical consult stat. CBC, metabolic panel, get an IV started, 2 lines, push fluids aggressively. She glanced at the man hovering like a storm ready to break. His hands had curled into fists, his jaw so tight she could see the muscle jumping. Acute appendicitis, possibly ruptured based on presentation and timeline. She needs surgery immediately. Maya straightened to her full 5'6" and met his gaze without flinching. You need to move so my team can work. I don't take orders. But there was something in his voice, a crack in the armor, desperation leaking through despite his best efforts. Maya moved closer, close enough that she had to look up slightly, close enough to smell expensive cologne and something else, the faint copper scent that spoke of violence. In this room, you absolutely do. Every second you waste blocking my team is a second closer to that appendix rupturing completely. If that happens, her survival rate drops from 90% to 50%. So I'm asking you once, politely, step back. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, respect, possibly attraction, though neither would admit it. He stepped back with controlled, deliberate movement. The next 2 hours blurred together the way trauma cases always did. Maya coordinated with surgery, managing pre-op with the kind of competence that came from saving lives in neighborhoods where gunshot wounds happened every Tuesday and stabbings barely made the local news. She'd seen dangerous men before. Gang members with teardrop tattoos who bled out on her table, cartel enforcers who threatened her while she saved their lives, dirty cops who looked at her like she was expendable. She recognized the markers on this man, the way his associates positioned themselves to watch exits, the expensive watch that could buy a house, the tattoos peeking from his collar that spoke of affiliations she'd rather not know about, the way everyone in the ER gave him wide berth, except those too drunk or high to recognize danger, standing 6 feet tall in Italian leather. But she'd also seen raw, unfiltered fear on his face when his mother stopped breathing for 12 eternal seconds during intubation, the way his knuckles went white gripping the waiting room chair, the barely audible prayer in Mandarin that slipped from his lips. That was real. That was human. That was the part violence hadn't killed yet. Maya found herself watching him in quiet moments, the way he checked his phone constantly, barking orders in rapid Mandarin that made his associates jump, the way he paced 5 steps, pivot, 5 steps back, the way he refused coffee, water, every comfort offered as if accepting care would be weakness he couldn't afford. When Mrs. Chen was finally wheeled to surgery, vitals stabilized but precarious, Maya found him in the family consultation room. He sat with his head in his hands, elbows on his knees, shoulders hunched. The first time he'd looked anything but dangerous. 2 associates stood guard outside, giving privacy but remaining close enough to respond. The surgeon is Dr. Michaels, one of the best. Maya sat 2 chairs away, maintaining professional distance. Your mother's strong. Her vitals responded well to treatment. She'll make it through. He looked up, and she saw exhaustion carved into features too young for such hardness. He couldn't be older than 36, but his eyes looked ancient. Why are you telling me this? Because you're scared, and I've learned fear is universal. Maya folded her hands. Rich, poor, powerful, powerless, everyone bleeds the same red. Everyone feels fear the same way. You're human, Mr. Chen, no matter how much you pretend otherwise. I'm not. He stopped, recalibrated. People don't usually speak to me this way. I'm not most people, and something tells me you're used to people being afraid of you. Maya allowed a small smile. I'm too tired to be afraid tonight. 16 hours on shift, 3 gunshot wounds, 2 stabbings, 1 guy who thought he could fly off his balcony on bath salts. You're going to have to work harder to scare me. The corner of his mouth twitched, almost human. Chen Wei. Maya Torres, but you heard that already. She studied him openly. You're injured. Old wound. The way you're sitting is compensating for chronic pain in your ribs, left side. His eyebrows rose. Observant. Nurse in a Chicago ER. You learn to read people fast or you don't survive. Body language tells me everything. Who's high, who's armed, who's going to run. She paused. You're carrying at least 1 gun, probably 2. You're in constant pain. You haven't slept properly in 3 days based on the shadows under your eyes. Am I wrong? Chen Wei stared at her, something like respect flickering across his face. Not wrong. Disturbingly accurate. They sat in silence, the kind that felt less awkward than it should. Finally, he spoke again, his voice quieter now. You're very good at your job. I'd better be. I'm drowning in student debt to prove it. She regretted the words immediately, showing vulnerability to a man who probably weaponized vulnerability. But he only nodded thoughtfully. American healthcare, criminal enterprise disguised as medicine. They charge hundreds of thousands for education, then pay barely enough to survive while administrators get rich. Maya laughed, surprised. Says the man in the... She stopped herself. In the what? His eyes were sharp now. In the very expensive suit, she finished, though they both knew that wasn't what she'd meant. At 3 a.m. on a Thursday with associates who move like military, most people don't have that kind of resources. Most people don't have my obligations. He leaned back carefully, favoring that left side, studying her with intensity that should have been uncomfortable but felt like being seen. You're observant, Maya Torres. That's either very smart or very dangerous in this city. Can't it be both? She checked her watch. Almost 5. Her shift should have ended 2 hours ago. I should get back. Your mother will be out of surgery in 90 minutes. Someone will update you every 30 minutes. I'll check in before I leave. Thank you. His voice was raw. For treating her like she mattered. Maya turned back. Everyone matters in my ER, Mr. Chen. CEO or homeless, saint or... She chose her next word carefully. Businessman with complicated affiliations. When you're bleeding on my table, you're just human. That's all that matters. She walked away, feeling his eyes burn between her shoulder blades. Her instincts, the ones that had kept her alive for 12 years, said this wouldn't be the last time she saw Chen Wei. She just hoped it wouldn't get her killed. 3 days later, Maya was restocking exam room supplies when Gloria appeared with an expression between amused and concerned. That terrifying hot Asian guy is back, asking for you by name. Gloria's eyebrows were practically in her hairline. Girl, what did you do? Maya's stomach did something complicated. Mrs. Chen okay? Being discharged today, full recovery, but he's been waiting 20 minutes, won't talk to anyone else. His bodyguards are making everyone nervous. Gloria leaned in conspiratorially. Also, he brought flowers, the kind that cost more than my rent. Maya took her time, finishing inventory, washing her hands twice, checking her reflection and hating that she cared what she looked like. She found him by the window, looking out at Chicago's skyline with stillness that suggested coiled violence. He turned when she entered, looking different, less storm cloud, more tired, human. The expensive suit was gone, replaced with dark jeans and a black button-down that still probably cost more than her monthly salary. Mr. Chen, is everything all right? She's recovering well, complaining about food and demanding to go home, which they tell me is a good sign. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. I wanted to express my gratitude properly. Maya didn't touch it. If that's money, I can't accept it. I was doing my job. It's not money. It's a phone number. Direct line. He set it on the table. If you ever need anything at all, call this number, day or night. In my culture, saving a life creates a debt. I don't take debts lightly. And in my culture, we just say thank you and move on. But Maya's curiosity piqued. What kind of anything? His eyes met hers, dark and honest. The kind most people can't access. Problems that disappear, doors that open, protection when the system fails, medical bills that become resolved, student loans that become manageable, people bothering you who suddenly find other interests. That sounds like you're not a hedge fund manager. I'm not. No elaboration. Maya should have walked away, should have filed a security report. Instead, she heard herself say, "Your mother mentioned something while coming out of anesthesia about how you built an empire from ash and blood. Real or morphine talking?" Both. Chen Wei moved closer, and Maya noticed his limp. I'm not going to lie to you, Maya Torres. I'm not a good man. I've done things that would make you lose sleep. I've hurt people, killed people, destroyed lives. But I'm a man who pays his debts, and I owe you one. Why do I get the feeling that number would complicate my life? Because you're smart. He moved towards the door, his limp more pronounced. But it's there if you need it. Sometimes the system fails people like us. When it does, people like me are what's left. He was almost gone when Maya's mouth betrayed her judgment. What's wrong with you? He turned, eyebrow raised. Medically, you're favoring your left side. Your gait suggests chronic pain from your ribs, left side. During your mother's surgery, you had a stress response that wasn't just fear. Elevated blood pressure, sweating despite air conditioning. You sat down twice. Maya crossed her arms. I'm a nurse. I notice things. So what's wrong with you? For a long moment, he just stared. Then, incredibly, he laughed, a real sound that transformed his face from dangerous to devastatingly handsome. You're very brave or very foolish. Probably both. Answer the question. Old bullet wound. 3, actually, but one's the problem. Shattered ribs, collapsed lung, damaged nerves. Emergency surgery saved my life but left complications. He hesitated, something vulnerable crossing his features. There are other complications, long-term effects of trauma, nothing that concerns you. But the way he said it, the careful word choice, the way he wouldn't meet her eyes, made Maya's clinical instincts fire. Spit it out. I've heard everything. You cannot shock me. Erectile dysfunction. The words came out flat, matter of fact, but Maya saw tension in his shoulders. 15 years since the injury. Doctors say it's psychological trauma combined with nerve damage. Some things break and stay broken. I've accepted it. Maya processed this with clinical detachment, even as something in her chest tightened. Have you tried everything? Western medicine, traditional Chinese approaches, acupuncture, therapy, every medication on the market and several that aren't. I've seen specialists in 5 countries. Nothing works. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Some things just stay broken, Maya. Nothing stays broken if you haven't tried my approach yet. The words escaped before she could stop them. His eyebrows rose. Your approach? Holistic intervention, physical therapy, psychological counseling, actually addressing the trauma instead of medicating around it. You're treating symptoms, not cause. Maya grabbed a notepad, already scribbling. Your body is protecting you from vulnerability by shutting down. Defense mechanism. Your nervous system learned vulnerability equals death, so it keeps you in permanent survival mode. Are you offering to fix me, Maya Torres? The way he said her name sent an inappropriate shiver down her spine. I'm offering a medical consultation, nothing more. And what would this consultation entail? You'd have to trust me completely. Let me examine you properly, full medical history, run tests, absolute honesty about your injury, lifestyle, stress levels, everything. Can you do that? The silence stretched. Outside, the hospital continued its endless rhythm. Finally, Chen Wei nodded slowly. I'm off Friday nights. There's a clinic I volunteer at in Pilsen. Quiet, private, no questions asked. We treat people who can't afford regular care. Maya wrote down the address. 9 p.m. Come alone. He took the paper, fingers brushing hers. You're either going to save me or destroy me. Let's hope for option 1. Maya headed for the door, then looked back. And Mr. Chen, don't bring your entourage, just you. This requires privacy and trust. Dangerous, going alone to meet a man like me in an empty clinic at night. Maya smiled, feeling reckless. Good thing I'm not most people. 9 p.m. Friday. Don't be late. The Friday clinic was in a neighborhood Maya knew well, Pilsen, where gentrification fought decades of working-class Latino culture, where violence and poverty created patients no one else wanted to treat. It was the kind of place where dangerous men were common, which meant Chen Wei would blend perfectly. He arrived exactly at 9, alone as requested, wearing dark jeans and a black t-shirt that revealed lean muscle and old scars. Maya led him through the quiet clinic to a private exam room they used for sensitive cases. Sit. She pulled on gloves, organizing supplies. This is judgment-free. Whatever you tell me stays between us. Medical confidentiality is sacred. I don't care if you're wanted by the FBI. In this room, you're my patient. That's all. If you told me I've killed people? Maya paused, meeting his eyes steadily. Are you planning to kill anyone in this clinic tonight? No. Are you a danger to me right now? Never. The certainty was absolute. Then we're fine. Now tell me about the injury. Everything. The story came out in clinical details. Ambushed at 22 by a rival organization, 3 bullets in quick succession, one shattered his ribs and collapsed his left lung, another grazed his liver, a third lodged near his spine. Emergency surgery saved his life but left damage surgeons couldn't fully repair. 6 weeks hospitalized, 3 months of brutal physical therapy. the psychological trauma of nearly dying, of being vulnerable, of almost losing everything he'd built. The pressure of taking over his father's organization while still recovering, of proving he wasn't weak, of never being allowed to show pain or fear. 15 years of trying to fix something that seemed permanently broken. Maya listened, asked targeted questions, took notes. Then she moved to physical examination, palpating the old scarring with professional detachment, even though her mind raced with diagnostic possibilities. The scarring was extensive, raised and ropey across his left ribs. She could feel where ribs were reconstructed, where metal pins still held bone fragments. His breathing was slightly asymmetrical, the left lung never expanding fully. Deep breath. She listened with her stethoscope. Diminished lung sounds on the left, as expected. Heart rate elevated but steady. Chronic pain? Constant. Worse in cold weather or when stressed, which is always. Medications? Prescription NSAIDs, no opioids. Can't afford to be impaired. Maya continued her examination, noting muscle tension patterns, checking reflexes, assessing range of motion. His body was a map of violence. Old knife scars on his abdomen, a bullet scar on his right shoulder, burns on his left forearm that looked like cigarette torture. "You can get dressed." She pulled off her gloves, moving to her desk to organize notes. Chen Wei pulled his shirt on carefully, protecting his left side with unconscious habit. Verdict? Good news and complicated news. Maya turned to face him. The nerve damage is real, but not irreparable. Nerve tissue can regenerate under the right conditions. Your body's stress response is so heightened, it's essentially shut down all non-essential functions. You've been in fight or flight for 15 years, Chen. Your nervous system never received the signal that the threat is over. She pulled up a chair, sitting eye level. Your body doesn't feel safe enough to be vulnerable. Sexual function requires complete vulnerability, physical and psychological. You have to feel safe enough to let your guard down completely. And the good news? It's treatable. Difficult, requiring months of work, but treatable. Maya leaned forward, but it requires you to feel safe, which means addressing the psychological component, PTSD, hypervigilance, trauma responses. You'd need specialized therapy, probably with someone who understands complex trauma, combined with gradual physical therapy to retrain your nervous system's stress responses. She pulled up treatment protocols on her tablet. There are techniques, somatic experiencing, EMDR, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, combined with physical interventions like pelvic floor therapy, cardiovascular conditioning, stress reduction. The question is whether you're willing to do the work. It's going to be hard. You're going to have to revisit the worst moments of your life. Chen Wei was quiet. What if I told you feeling safe is impossible in my line of work? That letting my guard down could get me killed? Then I'd say you're choosing survival over living. That's a decision only you can make. Maya studied his face. But I'd also say you came here for a reason. Some part of you wants to be whole again. And you think you can make me whole? I think you can make yourself whole if you're willing to trust the process. I just guide you, provide medical oversight, monitor progress. Maya stood, writing referrals. I have colleagues who specialize in trauma therapy. Dr. Sarah Park, Korean American, former military psychologist, works with combat veterans and others with complex PTSD. She won't judge. She handed him the information, combined with weekly check-ins with me to monitor physical progress, adjust medications, work on stress reduction and nervous system regulation. Weekly. Something in his tone, surprise mixed with hope. That a problem? No. He stood, and suddenly the small room felt smaller. I just wasn't expecting you to be so invested. I'm a nurse. Healing people is what I do. It's not just a job. But even as she said it, Maya knew there was more. Something about this dangerous man who trusted her with his deepest vulnerability made her want to prove healing was possible even in the darkest circumstances. When do we start? Next Friday, same time. Bring your full medical records if you have them. She handed him a folder. And Chen, this only works if you're honest about everything. Your stress levels, your lifestyle, your safety. I can't help if you're hiding things. He took the papers, fingers lingering on hers. Call me Wei, just Wei, and I'll try to be honest. It's not something I'm accustomed to. I know, but we'll work on it together. Maya walked him to the back exit where his car waited, black and expensive and probably bulletproof. One more thing. Yes? Thank you for trusting me with this. I know it wasn't easy. Something flickered in his eyes. You're the first person I've told the complete truth to in 15 years, so thank you for listening without judgment. As he left, Maya realized she'd just agreed to regular appointments with a man who'd admitted to killing people, who ran criminal organizations, whose world operated on violence and fear. A man whose eyes looked at her like she was the first real thing he'd seen in years. She should be terrified. Instead, she was intrigued, invested, already planning treatment protocols. 6 weeks later, Maya was reviewing Wei's progress notes when he arrived for their Friday session. The clinic had become their space, this quiet room where outside rules didn't apply. He looked different, less rigid, moving with more ease, the perpetual tension in his shoulders reduced by noticeable degrees. "How was this week?" Maya asked. "Brutal session with Dr. Park Tuesday. She's relentless, made me recount the night I got shot in detail. Every moment from ambush to waking in ICU, but there was almost humor in his voice. I didn't have a panic attack. Heart rate elevated, I started sweating, but I used those breathing exercises. I got through it." He rolled his shoulders and Maya noticed the movement was smoother. Dr. Park said that's significant progress. "It is. Your nervous system is learning new responses." Maya made notes. "Any physical changes?" "Some." He met her eyes, hope and vulnerability there. "Morning responses. Nothing sustained, nothing I could act on, but more than I've had in years. Woke up 3 times this week with partial erections. They didn't last, but they happened." "That's significant progress, Wei. Really significant." Maya kept her tone clinical, despite warmth creeping into her cheeks. "It means your nervous system is starting to feel safe enough. Your body is remembering how to respond." They fell into their rhythm, Maya asking targeted questions, Wei answering with increasing honesty. She learned about his organization in careful detail. Import-export with selective legal gray areas, protection services, financial enterprises in regulatory shadows. His mother's recovery and increasing meddling. She'd called Maya twice to thank her and hint about grandchildren. His world's peculiar honor code, violence acceptable against those who knew the risks, but civilians and families sacred. He learned about her debt in painful specificity, $230,000 in student loans, monthly payments eating half her income, the second job she worked weekends just to stay current, her family situation, parents in Mississippi who hadn't spoken to her in 5 years after she'd refused to lose weight and marry the man they'd chosen, her passion for healing people the system had forgotten. "You know what's funny?" Wei said during week 8, lying on the exam table as Maya worked on myofascial release around his old injury. "You're the only person who touches me who isn't trying to kill me or fuck me, the only one who touches me like it's safe." Maya's hands paused. "I'm your medical provider. That's literally my job." "No, it's more than that. You touch me like I'm a human, like I'm not—" trailed off. "Not what?" "Not a monster. Like I'm just a person who deserves care." Maya moved where she could see her face. "You're not a monster, Wei. You're a man who's done monstrous things to survive in a monstrous world. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Yes." She met his eyes with certainty. "Monsters don't try to heal. Monsters don't spend 8 weeks in trauma therapy facing their worst memories because some nurse told them they could be whole. You're not a monster. You're deeply wounded and you did what you had to survive. But survival and thriving are different things. You're finally learning to thrive." Something in his expression cracked open, and Maya saw the 22-year-old who'd nearly died, who had to become something hard to survive, who'd buried his humanity so deep he forgot it existed. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for seeing me, for seeing past what I've done to who I might still be." Maya cleared her throat, professional distance reasserting itself. "That's what we do here. Now let's focus on breathing exercises." By the end of the session, his blood pressure had dropped 10 points, his heart rate normalized to something almost peaceful. Better, Maya made final notes, but you need to practice daily, 15 minutes every morning, no exceptions. Yes, ma'am, he said with a slight smile that transformed his face. As he was leaving, Maya found herself saying, "Wei, I'm proud of the work you're doing. I know it's not easy." He paused at the door. "It's easier because of you, because you believe I can be whole again. That matters more than you know." As he left, Maya sat in the quiet exam room and acknowledged the truth she'd been avoiding. This wasn't just professional care anymore. Somewhere between clinical consultations and vulnerable honesty, something had shifted. She cared about this man not just as a patient, but as a person. She wanted him to heal not just for medical success, but because she couldn't bear the thought of him living in pain. She looked forward to Friday nights because it meant seeing him, and that was dangerous for both of them. The ambush happened on a Tuesday night, shattering everything they'd built. Maya was leaving her volunteer shift around 11, later than usual because she'd stayed to treat a teenager with a knife wound. The neighborhood was quiet, that particular silence that meant either peace or predators. Her instincts screamed warning before her conscious mind registered the threat. The black SUV had been circling the block. She'd noticed it earlier but hadn't thought much of it. Now it was parked across from her car, engine running, windows tinted dark. Maya picked up her pace, hand reaching for her phone to dial Wei's number, which she'd programmed under urgent medical contact. Keys between her fingers like a weapon. 3 men materialized from nowhere. Too fast, too coordinated, moving with military precision. Professional, not random street thugs, but trained operators. Maya Torres. The one in front smiled, the kind that promised violence. "Someone wants to talk about your boyfriend." Maya's heart hammered. "I don't have a boyfriend." "No? Then why do you spend every Friday night with Chen Wei?" He pulled out photos, her and Wei entering the clinic, leaving together, his hand on her back. The two of them at a coffee shop. When had that been? 2 weeks ago? Brief and innocent, but captured on camera. Cozy relationship for a nurse and her patient. Fear turned to cold fury. Who are you? Friends of friends, associates with business interests that conflict with Mr. Chen's. He stepped closer. Maya smelled expensive cologne mixed with gun oil and threat. See, Wei's been distracted lately, less focused on business, more focused on personal matters. He gestured at the photos. "We think you're the reason. We think you're making him weak." Maya's mind raced. Scream, no one would come. Run, they'd catch her. Fight, 3 trained men. Comply, definitely bad. "So what, you're going to threaten me? That'll just make him more focused on revenge." The man laughed. "Smart girl. No, we're going to have a conversation about how you're going to help us. You'll continue seeing Wei, but you'll also—" The crack of a gunshot split the night. The man crumpled, and suddenly Wei was there, emerging from shadows like an avenging angel, with 2 of his people flanking him, his gun still raised, his eyes absolutely cold. "Run, Maya, now." But Maya Torres was a trauma nurse. She'd spent years running toward danger, not away. She dropped to her knees beside the wounded man, training overriding fear. He's hit in the thigh. Femoral arteries intact, but he's losing blood fast. Direct pressure now. "Maya, get away from him." "Shut up and give me your belt. You want answers? I need to stabilize him first or he bleeds out in 4 minutes. She used her command voice. "Now, belt. Move your ass." For a frozen second, Wei just stared like she'd lost her mind. Then, incredibly, he started laughing, wild and disbelieving. "You're absolutely insane." "I'm a nurse. Now belt. Move." He handed it over, watching as Maya fashioned a tourniquet with efficiency that came from saving gunshot victims in ER bays. The other attackers had fled, leaving their colleague bleeding on concrete. "He'll live," Maya said finally, sitting back, hands covered in blood, adrenaline making her shake. But he needs a hospital or your equivalent, and someone needs to tell me what the hell just happened. No hospitals. Wei was already making calls in rapid Mandarin. We have doctors, secure facility. He'll be treated and questioned. His eyes met hers, genuine anguish beneath cold control. We need to leave. There might be more. More what? Who were they? Why did they have photos of us? The Konstantin Bratva, Russian organized crime. Drugs, weapons, human trafficking, all the businesses I've kept out of Chicago because they're undefensible. His jaw clenched. They saw you as leverage. They were going to use me to get to you. Yes. He moved closer. This is why I don't have relationships, Maya. This is why I keep everyone at arm's length. My world doesn't allow for vulnerabilities, for people who matter. And I am a vulnerability? You're everything I can't afford to have. His hands clenched. But I can't walk away from you. I've tried for weeks. I've told myself to stop coming to the clinic, to protect you by staying away. But I can't. I'm not strong enough. Maya processed this. So what happens now? Now I eliminate the threat permanently. The coldness in his voice reminded her exactly who she was dealing with. And you disappear. New identity, new city, new life. I have resources. I can set you up anywhere. New papers, enough money you never have to work again. You'll be safe. No. Maya. I said no. She squared her shoulders. I don't run, and I don't let other people make decisions about my life. This isn't a negotiation. You're damn right it's not. Maya moved into his space. You want to protect me? Teach me to protect myself. You want to eliminate the threat? Let me help. I'm not some delicate flower to be hidden away while the men handle danger. I'm a nurse who's been stitching gunshot wounds in gang territory for a decade. I know violence, I know danger, and I choose to stay anyway. Wei stared at her. You're choosing this? My world? The violence? The constant threat? I'm choosing to fight instead of run. Maya grabbed his hand, lacing their fingers. You spent 8 weeks learning to feel safe enough to be vulnerable, learning to trust me. Well, I feel safe with you. Even now, even knowing what you are, I feel safer with you than I have with anyone. So either we figure this out together, or you're proving all that therapy was pointless. The silence stretched. Finally, Wei pulled her against him, face buried in her hair, arms wrapped around her like she was the only solid thing in a spinning world. You're going to get me killed or saved, he murmured. Could go either way. You need to understand what you're agreeing to, Wei said. My world is brutal. If they can't use you as leverage, they'll try to eliminate you because you matter to me. You'll need protection, full-time security, armored vehicles, changes to your routine, training in self-defense, weapons, threat assessment. Everything changes. Then change it, but do it with me, not for me. Don't make decisions and inform me. Involve me. Teach me. Let me be your partner. Maya pulled back to look at him. I'm all in, Wei. The question is whether you are. He kissed her then, fierce and desperate, full of vulnerability he'd been learning to access. When they broke apart, his eyes held new determination. Okay, together, but we do this my way, strategically, carefully, with every advantage we can build. You follow security protocols, you train with my people, you learn the rules. His smile was sharp and cold. And the Russians, they threatened what's mine. That requires a response they'll understand. The next 2 weeks were a crash course in Wei's world. Maya learns about territories and tributaries, how Chicago's underworld was divided. Wei controlled the south and west sides, with fingers in Chinatown, influence stretching to suburbs. She learned about the businesses, legitimate import-export companies that also moved goods the government frowned upon, real estate that laundered money, protection services, financial enterprises in legal gray areas. She met his inner circle, hard-eyed men and women who regarded her with suspicion until she calmly treated a knife wound during a meeting, one of Wei's enforcers slashed in a dispute, and never flinched. She's solid. Yuri Chen told Wei afterward. Chinese mother, Russian father, utterly loyal despite his mixed heritage making him an outsider. Steady hands, steady mind. The Bratva miscalculated. They saw weakness. She's a weapon they didn't account for. Maya started self-defense training with Reina Torres, former Israeli Defense Forces, 5'4" of concentrated lethality. The first session left Maya bruised and humbled. "You're strong," Reina said, helping Maya up after throwing her for the 6th time. "Your work gives you core strength, good instincts, but you fight like you're trying not to hurt anyone. In this world, you fight to end the threat. First strike, no mercy, incapacitate, and run." Maya adapted, driven by memory of those men in the alley. She learned pressure points, eye strikes, how to use her weight as advantage, where to aim to disable. "Good," Reina said, after Maya successfully executed a defense sequence. "Now again, faster. In a real situation, you have maybe 2 seconds. Make them count." Meanwhile, intelligence confirmed the Bratva wasn't backing down. They saw Maya as an insult that needed correcting, Wei's protection of her as weakness to exploit. The breakthrough came 3 weeks after the ambush. Wei's tech specialist, Jake Rodriguez, who looked 16 but was 32, cracked the Bratva's communication network. "They're planning something big," Jake explained, pulling up encrypted messages on multiple screens. "Not just surveillance or another grab. They're bringing in an outside contractor, specialist from overseas, former Spetsnaz, multiple confirmed kills. They're planning a hit." "On Maya?" Wei's voice was ice. "Not directly. They're smarter. They know she's protected now. No, they're targeting the processing facility, your main distribution hub. They want to cripple your supply chain, kill your workers, force you to negotiate, make you choose between business and Maya." "When?" "Saturday night, during shift change, 11 p.m. Maximum casualties, maximum damage." Maya's nursing instincts fired. "How many people work that shift?" 32 regular staff, Wei said quietly. "Mostly immigrants, people who need jobs no one else will give them. They're under my protection. If the Bratva kills them," his jaw clenched, "it's personal." "Then we protect them," Maya said immediately. "We evacuate workers under cover of a gas leak. Emergency protocol. Looks legitimate. We set up surveillance at the facility to catch the Bratva team, and we neutralize whoever comes for me with overwhelming force." Yuri leaned forward. "It could work if we coordinate perfectly." "No," Wei said flatly. "I'm not putting Maya in the crosshairs deliberately." "I'm already in the crosshairs," Maya countered. "This way, I'm in them with backup, with a plan. Doing nothing means waiting for them to move on their terms. This gives us initiative." "She has a point, boss," Reina added. "Defensive positioning is weak. This gives us control." Wei looked around at his people, all nodding, then back at Maya. "If we do this, you follow my orders exactly. No improvisation, no heroics. You stay where it's safe until we confirm the threat is neutralized. Non-negotiable." "Agreed," Maya said, though they both knew she was lying. The plan came together over 48 hours with military precision. Wei's people would handle the facility, securing it after evacuation, setting surveillance, preparing to catch the Bratva team. Maya would be at the clinic with Reina and 2 others, visible through windows but protected by reinforced walls and hidden weapons. Saturday arrived with tension thick as fog. Maya was at the clinic by 7 p.m., going through her normal routine. Treating a sprained ankle, dispensing antibiotics, counseling a young woman on birth control. Visibly alone except for security hidden in shadows and on rooftops. Wei had wanted to be with her, but she'd convinced him he needed to be at the facility. "Your people need to see you leading," she told him. "That's how you win this. Not by hiding with me, but by showing you're still in control. If you're here, it suggests they've made you weak." At 9:47 p.m., Jake's voice crackled through the comm Maya wore under her scrub top. "Movement at the facility. 3 vehicles approaching. 8 hostiles confirmed. Armed, tactical gear. They're moving in." At 9:53 p.m., Reina touched Maya's shoulder. 2 approaching from the north alley, 1 from the south. Professional spacing, coordinated timing. They're isolating exits like we predicted. Maya's heart hammered, but her hands stayed steady as she continued organizing supplies. How long until Wei's team can move? They need to wait until the Bratva commits at the facility, enters the building. Timing's critical. Too early and they scatter. Too late and they damage the facility. Raina's hand rested on her concealed weapon. Stay calm. We've trained for this. The clinic door opened with a soft chime that sounded like death's knock. A man walked in, mid-30s, expensive suit inappropriate for the neighborhood. Dead eyes. Maya Torres? That's me. She didn't look up from her inventory. If you're here for treatment, I need you to fill out these forms. I'm not here for treatment. I'm here to deliver a message from Konstantin Volkov. He'd like to discuss your relationship with Chen Wei. You'll come quietly or things get messy. Maya finally looked up, meeting his eyes with calm she'd learned from Wei. I don't discuss my patients. Medical confidentiality. That's unfortunate because Mr. Volkov insists. Raina moved like lightning. One shot, center mass, the man dropping before he could finish. Instantly, chaos erupted, glass shattering as more Bratva enforcers forced entry, gunfire peppering walls, shouts in Russian and English. Get down. Raina shoved Maya behind the reinforced desk, returning fire with controlled precision. Maya's training kicked in. This was just another trauma situation. Chaos, violence, screaming. Stay calm and functional. She grabbed the go bag of medical supplies, mind already running triage protocols. Through her calm, Maya heard Wei's voice, tight with controlled fury. Maya, status. 3 hostiles in the clinic, 1 down, active engagement. Gunfire punctuated her words. What's happening at the facility? They're inside, planting explosives. We're moving to contain. Yuri's team is... Loud bangs, more gunfire. If anything happens to you... Nothing's going to happen. I have Raina and she's terrifying. Go protect your people. End this. The firefight lasted 4 minutes that felt like hours. Raina and her team were professionals, economical, efficient, lethal. Each shot meant something. Each movement had purpose. When the last Bratva enforcer dropped, Maya was already moving, checking vitals, applying pressure to wounds. He's alive, she called to Raina, kneeling beside an attacker. Femoral artery compromised, but savable. I need... Let him bleed, Raina said flatly. He came to kill you. No, Maya worked with focus. We need information. Dead men don't talk. Plus, I took an oath, even for assholes who try to kidnap me. Raina laughed, sharp and genuine. Boss chose well. You're either crazy or brilliant. Can it be both? 20 minutes later, Wei burst through the clinic door like an avenging angel, his face a mask of controlled violence that shattered in relief when he saw Maya, blood-stained but whole. Security secured, he said, pulling her against him with barely controlled desperation. All workers safe, evacuated before the Bratva arrived. 8 operatives in custody, 2 killed in the firefight. The explosives were... He stopped, really seeing her. You're hurt. Grazes from flying glass, nothing serious. Maya gestured to the wounded Bratva enforcer she'd stabilized. This one's talking, already told us everything about their operation, their contractor, their employer's location. Funny how gratitude works when someone saves your life after you try to kill them. Wei stared at the wounded man, then at Maya, then laughed, disbelief and admiration. You saved his life after he tried to kidnap you. He's more useful alive. Plus, Healy is what I do. Can't turn it off just because someone's an asshole. She finished securing her own bandage. Now let's use what he told us and end this. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Using intelligence from the wounded operative, Wei's people dismantled the Konstantin Bratva operations in Chicago in 72 hours, a coordinated strike so efficient, so comprehensive, that other organizations took notice and reconsidered challenging him. Maya stayed out of the violence itself, but treated wounded on both sides. Wei's people hurt in the facility raid, even captured Bratva members who needed care before interrogation. Her clinic became neutral ground that even enemies respected. You're making me soft, Wei told her a week later, watching as she taught his people basic first aid. 6 months ago, I would have just eliminated everyone. Now I'm running a medical training program. You're not soft, you're strategic, Maya finished, demonstrating tourniquet application. Dead enemies can't give intelligence. Treated enemies sometimes switch sides when they realize you value life more than rivals do. It's practical, not soft. Plus, your people need these skills. The faster they can stabilize each other, the better your survival rates. Keep telling yourself that. But he was smiling, that rare, genuine expression that transformed his face. A month after the confrontation, they were in Wei's office, his real one, when Yuri brought news. Volkov is pulling out. His bosses in Moscow aren't happy about losses. 8 operatives dead or captured, Chicago operations dismantled, $2 million in assets seized. They're cutting losses and pulling out entirely. Yuri looked at Maya with respect. You made an impression. Some of his people said they'd never seen someone treat enemies with kindness. It confused them, made them question orders. Confusion is a weapon, then caught Wei's proud expression. What? You sound like me. You're learning the language of this world. God, that's terrifying. But she was smiling. That night in Wei's penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan, Maya found him on the balcony staring at city lights. His city, his empire, his responsibility. Penny for your thoughts? He turned, expression complicated. I'm not fixed, Maya. The therapy, the physical progress, it's helping. Dr. Park says I'm making breakthrough progress, but I'm still broken in ways that might not heal. The dysfunction is improving, but not resolved. I still have nightmares. I still live in a world of violence. No one's asking you to be fixed, Maya said, moving into his arms. I'm asking you to be whole. There's a difference. Whole means accepting all your parts, the violence and the tenderness, the monster and the man, the crime lord and the son who loves his mother. You don't have to choose one or the other. You can be both. And you can accept both, can love both? I already do. She pulled back to look at him. I've seen what you're capable of. The violence, the ruthlessness, the cold calculation. I've also seen your loyalty to people others discard, your protection of people who can't protect themselves, the way you're learning to be vulnerable despite 15 years of trauma telling you it'll kill you. She held his gaze. You're not a monster. You're a man doing monstrous things in a world that demands it, and I choose to stand beside you anyway. I choose you, all of you. He kissed her then, slow and deep and reverent, full of promises neither could voice but both understood. When they broke apart, something had solidified between them, partnership that went beyond romance into something more fundamental. I love you, he said against her lips, even though it's the most dangerous thing I've ever admitted, even though it makes me vulnerable in ways that could destroy everything. I love you too, even though you're probably going to get me killed or arrested or both. Never, he vowed with absolute certainty. I'll burn this city down before I let anyone hurt you. See, that's the kind of sweet talk that makes a girl's heart flutter, Maya laughed. But seriously, don't burn down the city. Property values. The physical progress continued over following weeks. 3 months after the Bratva incident, Wei woke in the middle of the night to find Maya watching him with clinical satisfaction. What? He asked, groggy. You had a complete, sustained physiological response during REM sleep, 5 minutes duration, no intervention, no conscious stimulation, just your body finally believing it's safe enough to be completely vulnerable. She kissed his forehead, then his lips. You're healing, Wei, really healing, not just managing symptoms, but actually recovering function. He pulled her close, processing this. Dr. Park said the breakthrough would happen when I finally felt safe enough to be completely vulnerable. I think that's you, Maya. You make me feel safe. Good, because you make me feel brave. They lay in silence, listening to city sounds through bulletproof windows. 2 people from different worlds who'd found unexpected healing in each other. For the first time in 15 years, Chen Wei felt completely whole. But wholeness in his world was always temporary. Maya was finishing inventory at her clinic when Wei burst through a door with an expression she'd learned to recognize. Danger, immediate, serious. We need to leave, now. Maya knew that tone. She didn't argue, just grabbed her emergency bag and followed him to the armored vehicle outside, his full security detail deployed. What happened? Rival organization, not Brava, someone new and more dangerous. The Sinaloa cartel's Chicago operation. They're making moves, trying to fill the vacuum we created pushing out the Russians, and you're the obvious target. Maya felt cold settle in her chest. How bad? Bad enough we're going to ground until I neutralize the threat. They've put out contracts, 3 separate bounties on you. The highest one is $5 million. They reached his most secure safe house. I need you to trust me, always, he said as they climbed out. What's the plan? Safe house for you with full security while I... No, Maya cut him off. We settled this. You don't protect me by hiding me. We face threats together, or all your progress means nothing. Maya, this isn't like the Bratva. These are professionals, cartel enforcers, trained assassins, people who make the Russians look like amateurs. They won't announce themselves. They'll hit when you're vulnerable and won't care about collateral damage. Then we need to be smarter, more prepared, more strategic. Maya pulled out her phone, opening clinic security feeds. The clinic has cameras, medical records, patterns of when I'm there. If they're watching that. We use it as the trap, but this time we don't wait. We identify them, track them to their employer, eliminate the threat at source before they mobilize. Wei stared at her. You want to hunt them before they hunt you? Best defense is good offense. You taught me that. And I have advantages they won't expect. I'm a nurse. I volunteer in communities all over Chicago. Pilsen, Little Village, back of the yards. Places where cartel presence is strong. I see patterns, faces, people who don't belong. If they're setting up surveillance, scouting locations, I'll spot them. They'll be looking for a scared victim. Instead, they'll find someone looking back. Yuri, listening from the driver's seat, laughed. I told you she was solid, boss. She's thinking like one of us now. This is insane, Wei said, but Maya could see calculation in his eyes. This is survival, Maya countered. And you said it yourself. Your world doesn't allow vulnerabilities, so I stop being vulnerable and start being an asset. I've been training with Reina for months. I know basic tactical operations. Let me help you fight instead of something you protect. The silence was heavy. Finally, Wei nodded slowly. Okay, but systematically. You don't move without security, ever. You report anything unusual immediately, and the second I say we're pulling back, we discuss it like partners and make a joint decision. I'm not your subordinate. I'm your equal. Equals don't work in my world. There's hierarchy, chain of command. Then maybe your world needs to evolve. Maya's voice was firm. You spent 6 months learning to trust me with your vulnerability, your trauma, your healing. Now time to trust me with your violence, too. Let me be someone who stands beside you anyway. I choose you, all of you. He looked at their joined hands, then out at Chicago's night, his city, his empire, his dangerous world that had never allowed for anything as risky as love. Then he looked back at Maya, this woman who'd walked into his darkness and refused to let him hide. Together, he said finally. Together, Maya agreed. As they drove toward the safe house to plan strategy, neither noticed the car following 3 vehicles back. Professional distance maintained, cameras capturing every move. Inside that car, a man with dead eyes and cartel tattoos spoke into an encrypted phone. Confirmed, she's with him, full security detail, heading to lakeside property as predicted. Good, a voice responded, smooth, accented, dangerous. Prepare the team. We move tomorrow night. The contract is clear. $5 million for her, dead or alive, preferably alive. Chen Wei needs to learn nothing he loves is safe. Understood. Collateral damage? Whatever it takes. Send a message he'll never forget. In the safe house, Wei and Maya spread surveillance photos and intelligence reports across the table, planning their counterstrike with military precision. They didn't know they had less time than they thought, didn't know tomorrow would bring violence that would test everything they'd built. But they faced it as they faced everything now, as partners, as equals, as two people who'd found something worth fighting for in a world that wanted to tear it apart. Maya's medical knowledge combined with Wei's tactical experience, her community connections merged with his intelligence network, her healing instinct balanced against his protective fury. And outside in Chicago's night, danger circled closer, patient and inevitable as death, professional and merciless as a cartel hit squad. The next evening, Maya was at her clinic, treating patients under the watchful eyes of Raina and two others positioned strategically. They'd identified 3 suspicious vehicles in the area over the past 6 hours, men who didn't belong, who watched too carefully, who moved with the casual violence of professional killers. "They're setting up," Raina said quietly, touching her earpiece. "Jake's tracking communications. They're coordinating for a simultaneous hit. Clinic and Wei's current location." Maya's stomach dropped. They're splitting his focus, attack both places at once, force him to choose. Smart play. Raina checked her weapon. "But we anticipated it. Wei's got double security at his location. We've got this locked down. You just keep doing what you're doing. Look normal." But nothing felt normal. Maya treated a woman with bronchitis, her hands steady even as her mind raced, prescribed antibiotics to a man with an ear infection, her voice calm even as adrenaline spiked through her system. At 8:47 p.m., everything exploded, not metaphorically, literally. The explosion at Wei's office building lit up the night sky 3 miles away, visible through the clinic windows, a fireball that turned nights to day for 3 seconds. "Wei!" Maya lunged for her phone, but Raina caught her arm. "That's what they want. You panic, you make mistakes." Raina's voice was steel. "He's got protocol for this. Bunker under the building, reinforced, blast-proof. He's fine. But now they'll hit here thinking you're distracted." As on cue, the clinic's front window shattered, not from gunfire, but from a smoke grenade that rolled across the floor, hissing, filling the space with thick white smoke that burned eyes and throat. "Back exit, now!" Raina grabbed Maya, pulling her toward the rear of the clinic, but the back door burst open before they reached it. 3 men in tactical gear, gas masks, weapons raised. Maya's training kicked in. She grabbed a metal tray from the nearest exam table and hurled it at the lead man's face. He ducked, but it bought Raina a second to fire. 1 down, 2 left. The fight was brutal and close quarters. Raina moved like lethal poetry, but there were too many. One of them got past her, grabbed Maya by the throat, slamming her against the wall hard enough to knock the breath from her lungs. $5 million, he said in accented English, his grip tightening. "You're worth $5 million to us, dead or alive, but my boss prefers alive, says Chen Wei needs to watch you suffer before you die." Maya couldn't breathe. Black spots danced at the edges of her vision. Her hands scrabbled uselessly against his grip. This was it. This was how she died, grabbed in her own clinic by a man whose face she couldn't even see through the smoke. Then the pressure released suddenly. The man dropped like a puppet with cut strings. Wei stood behind him, gun still raised, his face a mask of controlled rage so intense it was terrifying. Blood streaked his temple from a cut. His suit was torn, but he was alive, whole, moving. "Touch her again," Wei said to the remaining cartel enforcer, his voice deadly quiet, "and I'll make sure you spend days dying. Your choice. Drop the weapon and live, or keep fighting and learn exactly why people fear my name." The man dropped his weapon and raised his hands. Raina secured him quickly while Wei pulled Maya into his arms, his hands running over her face, her throat, checking for damage with barely controlled desperation. "I'm okay," Maya gasped, her throat aching but functional. "I'm okay. The explosion." Decoy. They blew an empty office building I'd already evacuated. I knew they'd split their attack. His forehead pressed against hers. "But knowing and seeing are different. When I saw the smoke, when I couldn't reach you." "I'm here. I'm okay." Maya's hands framed his face. "We're both okay." But they weren't, not really, because this was the 3rd attack in as many months. The Bratva, now the cartel. Wei's world kept trying to destroy what they were building, kept proving that love in his world came with a body count. The cleanup took hours. Police arrived, but Wei's connections meant minimal questions. The story became an attempted robbery gone wrong. Self-defense. Clean shoot. The surviving cartel enforcers were handed to federal authorities with enough evidence of drug trafficking to put them away for decades. But Maya knew this wouldn't be the last time. At Wei's penthouse later that night, she found him on the balcony, staring at Chicago's skyline with an expression that broke her heart. "I can't do this to you anymore," he said without turning. "Every time I think we're safe, someone new comes. The Bratva, now the cartel. Next week it'll be someone else, some rival who sees you as the way to break me. And they're right. You are. Wei!" "No, listen." He finally turned, and she saw tears tracking down his face. "I love you more than I thought possible, more than I knew I was capable of. You healed me in ways I didn't think were possible, given me hope I'd buried 15 years ago, made me feel whole." His voice broke. "But loving you is going to get you killed. It's only a matter of time before someone gets through my security, before I'm not fast enough, before—" "Stop!" Maya crossed to him, grabbing his face with both hands, forcing him to look at her. "You don't get to make this decision alone. You don't get to push me away for my own good, like some tragic hero in a bad movie. I'm not a child who needs protecting from reality. I'm a woman who knows exactly what your world costs and chooses to stay anyway." "Why? Why would you choose this?"
"Because I love you. Because you're worth it. Because what we have is worth fighting for." Maya's thumbs brushed away his tears. "Yes, your world is dangerous. Yes, people will keep coming, but hiding from love because you're afraid of loss isn't living, Wei. It's just existing. And I didn't fall in love with a man who just exists. I fell in love with a man who fights for what matters." "What if I'm not strong enough? What if next time I'm not fast enough and you die because of me?" "Then you honor what we had by living, by being whole, by not letting my death break you back into pieces." Maya pulled him closer. "But I'm not planning to die. I'm planning to fight, with you, beside you, as your partner. That's what love is in your world. It's choosing to fight together instead of hiding alone." Wei kissed her then, desperate and grateful and terrified and hopeful all at once. When they broke apart, something had changed in his eyes. "I need to show you something," he said quietly. "Something I should have shown you months ago." He led her inside, to his office, and opened a safe built into the wall. Inside were documents, deeds, bank statements. "This is everything," Wei said, spreading papers across his desk. "Every business, every asset, every account. The legitimate operations and the gray areas. All of it." He pulled out a specific document, placing it in front of her. "And this is my exit strategy, the plan I've been building for 5 years, a way to walk away from all of it, clean." Maya stared at the documents. Property in New Zealand, businesses in Singapore, accounts in Switzerland, a complete blueprint for disappearing, for starting over. "I could do it," Wei said. "Hand my organization to Yuri. He's ready. He's been ready for 2 years. I could liquidate everything and we could disappear. Be normal, safe." He met her eyes. "For you, I'd do it. I'd walk away from everything I've built. We could have a real life. No more attacks, no more violence, no more looking over our shoulders." Maya's heart hammered. This was what she'd wanted, wasn't it? Safety, normalcy, a life where love didn't come with bodyguards and bulletproof glass. But looking at Wei, seeing the hope and fear warring in his expression, she realized something crucial. Is that what you want, really want? Or are you offering it because you think it's what I need? Wei was silent for a long moment. "I don't know anymore. 6 months ago, the answer was easy. This world is all I know. It's who I am. But now, with you, the idea of something different, something safe—" He stopped. "I just know I can't lose you, whatever that takes." "Then don't lose me, but don't lose yourself either. Maya took his hands. I didn't fall in love with a man who runs. I fell in love with Chen Wei, crime lord, businessman, complicated man who's learning to be whole. If you walk away from your world because you want to, because you're ready, that's one thing. But if you're doing it out of fear, you'll resent it eventually. Resent me. I could never resent you. You say that now, but what happens in 5 years when you're bored in New Zealand, watching the empire you built fall apart without you? When you realize you gave up everything you fought for because some nurse made you feel guilty about danger? Maya shook her head. That's not love. That's sacrifice, and I'm not asking for sacrifice. Then what are you asking for? Balance. We find a way to make this work. You stay who you are, but we build better security, better protocols, better strategies. We don't run from your world. We remake it into something we can both live in. She squeezed his hands. And maybe, eventually, when you're ready, when it's your choice and not fear driving you, then you walk away. But not yet. Not like this. Wei pulled her against him, holding her like she was the only real thing in his world. How did I get so lucky, finding you, having you choose me despite everything? Not lucky, just persistent. You kept showing up to therapy even when it was hard, kept choosing vulnerability over armor, kept fighting to be whole. Maya pulled back to look at him. Now we keep fighting together. They stood like that for a long moment, holding each other, feeling the weight of what they'd survived and what still lay ahead. But the peace was temporary. Maya's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Impressive work tonight, but this isn't over. The cartel was just testing your defenses. The real attack comes when you least expect it, when you think you're finally safe. That's when we strike. And next time, Chen Wei won't be fast enough. Enjoy your time together. It's running out. A friend. Maya showed the message to Chen, watching his expression harden. They're not going to stop, she said quietly. Someone's coordinating this. The Bratva, the cartel, now this. Someone with resources and patience. Someone who knows your organization inside out. A traitor. Wei's voice was ice. Someone in my inner circle. Or someone who used to be. Someone with a grudge. Maya's mind raced through possibilities. We need to find them before they make their next move, because if they know your security protocols, your safe houses, your patterns, then nowhere is safe, Wei finished, until we root them out. He made calls immediately, summoning his inner circle, Yuri, Reina, Jake, his top lieutenants. Within an hour, his penthouse was filled with the people he trusted most. Someone's been feeding information to our enemies, Wei said without preamble. Someone with detailed knowledge of our operations. I want a full audit. Communications, finances, movements. Everyone gets investigated. No exceptions. Including us? Yuri asked quietly. Including you, including everyone in this room. Wei's voice was hard. Because whoever it is, they're good enough to hide in simple sight. They've been doing it for months, maybe longer, and they won't stop until Maya is dead and I'm broken. The investigation began immediately. Jake pulled communications logs, Yuri reviewed personnel files, Reina analyzed security footage. Maya watched it all, feeling the weight of what her presence in Wei's life had cost. The paranoia, the suspicion, the need to doubt people he trusted for years. Don't, Wei said softly, reading her expression. Don't blame yourself. This isn't your fault. Isn't it? If I'd never walked into your life? Then I'd still be broken, still half alive, going through the motions, feeling nothing. He pulled her close. I gave you a reason to want to be whole. Someone trying to take that away is on them, not you. But Maya couldn't shake the guilt, or the growing certainty that whoever was behind this wouldn't stop until one of them was dead. And time was running out to figure out who it was. The breakthrough came 48 hours later from an unexpected source. Jake called an emergency meeting at 2 a.m., his face pale with exhaustion and something that looked like betrayal. I found it, the leak, but you're not going to like it. Wei's entire inner circle gathered in his office. everyone tense, everyone suspicious of everyone else. Maya stood beside Wei, her hand in his, feeling the tremor running through him that only she could detect. "Show me," Wei said, his voice deadly quiet. Jake pulled up encrypted communications on the main screen. "Someone's been using a burner account to coordinate with both the Bratva and the cartel. Same person, same encryption patterns, same digital signature." He typed rapidly. "I traced it through 7 proxy servers, 4 countries, and 2 dark web networks. Whoever this is, they're good. Professional-level operational security." "Who?" Yuri's voice was tight. Jake pulled up a name, an address, a photo that made the room go silent. "Dr. Sarah Park, Wei's trauma therapist." "No," Wei said flatly, "that's impossible. Dr. Park has been helping me for months. She's the one who made breakthrough possible. She's been tracking every vulnerability you revealed in therapy and feeding it to your enemies," Jake interrupted, pulling up more evidence. "Look at the timeline. Every session you had with her, every detail you shared about your injury, your relationship with Maya, your security protocols, it all showed up in enemy communications within 24 hours. Maya felt sick. She'd recommended Dr. Park, had vouched for her credentials, her discretion, her expertise. Why? What does she gain? Revenge. Jake pulled up another file. Her brother was Kim Park Jinho. He worked for the Yoon Syndicate 15 years ago. Wei, you killed him during the territory war that established your control. Wei's face went white. Jinho, I remember. He was one of 5 enforcers who ambushed me and my father. We killed 3, 2 escaped. Jinho was one of the dead. Dr. Park has been planning this for 15 years, Jake continued. Medical school, psychology degree, building her reputation, all while waiting for the perfect opportunity. When Wei started looking for a trauma therapist who specialized in complex PTSD, she made sure her credentials were perfect, made sure she'd be recommended. "She's been using therapy to destroy me," Wei said quietly, something breaking in his voice. "Using the vulnerability I was learning to access as a weapon." And when that wasn't working fast enough, when therapy was actually healing you instead of breaking you, she started coordinating attacks. Jake pulled up more communications. She's the one who told the Bratva about Maya. She's the one who gave the cartel your security protocols. She's been orchestrating everything from the beginning. Maya felt rage building, white-hot and purifying. This woman had violated the sacred trust of the therapeutic relationship, had weaponized healing itself, had used Wei's desperate attempt to be whole as a way to destroy him. "Where is she now?" Maya's voice was steady, despite the fury. "That's the problem." Jake looked grim. "She disappeared 6 hours ago, cleaned out her office, wiped her digital footprint, went dark. But I found something in her deleted files. One last communication." He pulled it up, and Maya's blood turned to ice. "Final phase initiated. Target acquired. Chen Wei has one weakness I can exploit. One person whose death will break him permanently. When Maya Torres dies, he'll have nothing left to fight for, no reason to stay whole. He'll shatter, and I'll finally have my revenge for Gino. Tomorrow night, Chicago Memorial Hospital. She volunteers there every Wednesday. Public place, lots of witnesses, impossible to lock down completely. 1 shot, 1 kill, and Chen Wei's revention dies with her. SP. That's tonight, Raina said, checking her watch. Maya's shift at Memorial starts in 6 hours. Then we don't go, Wei said immediately. Maya stays here, full security, lockdown protocol. No, Maya's voice was firm. If I don't show, she'll just wait, find another opportunity. We need to end this now. You want to use yourself as bait again? Wei's voice rose. After everything, you want to... I want to finish this, Maya interrupted. Together, we set the trap, we bring overwhelming force, and we end Sarah Park's revenge before she can hurt anyone else. She's right, boss. Yuri said quietly. "This is our chance to control the engagement. Memorial's a big hospital, lots of access points, but also lots of places for our people to position. We can lock it down better than the clinic." Wei looked at Maya, seeing her determination, her refusal to hide. "You follow my protocols exactly, no improvisation." Agreed. They spent the next 6 hours planning with obsessive detail. Maya would go to her shift as normal, but with Raina and 5 others embedded as hospital visitors and staff. Jake would monitor security feeds. Wei would coordinate from a command post in the hospital's closed wing. Every entrance covered, every exit watched, every possible angle accounted for. At 5 p.m., Maya walked into Chicago Memorial wearing scrubs and a smile, looking like any other nurse starting her shift. But beneath her scrub top, she wore body armor. In her pocket, a panic button that would summon Wei's entire team in seconds. The evening shift passed with excruciating slowness. Maya treated patients, checked vitals, administered medications, all while hyper-aware of every person around her. Every visitor, every staff member, every person who didn't quite fit. At 8:47 p.m., Jake's voice crackled through her hidden earpiece. Movement. Woman matching Park's description entering through the emergency department. She's wearing scrubs, carrying medical bag, heading toward the main floor. "I've got visual," Raina responded. "She's good. Moves like staff, blends perfectly. But it's her. Confirmed." Maya's heart hammered, but her hand stayed steady as she finished administering an IV. "Where's Wei?" Approaching from the west corridor, Wei's voice came through, tight with controlled fury. "Maya, get to the medroom. Lock it. Now." But Maya saw Dr. Park before she could move. The woman emerged from the stairwell, no longer in scrubs, but in casual clothing, her hand in her bag where a weapon would be. Their eyes met across the hallway, and Sarah's expression twisted into something ugly. "You," Sarah said, pulling a gun with smooth practice. "You're the reason he's healing, the reason my revenge isn't working. If I can't break him through therapy, I'll break him through grief." "Your brother made a choice," Maya said, keeping her voice steady, falling into the calm she used in emergencies. "He chose violence. He chose to attack Wei and his father. His death was a consequence of that choice, not murder." "He was following orders, doing his job." Sarah's hand shook, rage making her sloppy. "And Chen Wei killed him without hesitation, without mercy, and then built an empire on my brother's corpse." "So you spent 15 years planning revenge, violating the sacred trust of therapy, coordinating attacks that killed innocent people. How many died in the Bratva's assault on Wei's facility? How many were hurt in the cartel's bombing? Your brother chose violence and died by violence. But you chose to heal people and then weaponized that gift. You're worse than he ever was." "Don't you dare." Sarah's finger tightened on the trigger. 3 things happened simultaneously. Wei lunged from the side, grabbing Sarah's gun hand, forcing it up as she fired. The bullet went high, embedding in the ceiling. Raina tackled Sarah from behind, driving her to the floor. And Maya, moving on pure instinct and months of training, swept Sarah's legs, helping bring her down hard. The fight was brutal, but brief. Sarah was good, but she was one woman against 3 trained fighters. Within 30 seconds, she was disarmed, restrained, Raina's knee in her back while Wei retrieved the gun. "It's over," Wei said, his voice empty of emotion. "Your revenge is over." "It's never over," Sarah spat, blood from her split lips staining the hospital floor. "You killed my brother. That debt can never be repaid." "Then you'll have a long time to think about it in prison," Maya said quietly. "Federal charges for conspiracy, attempted murder, terrorist threats. You'll spend the rest of your life locked away, your medical license revoked, your career destroyed, everything you built gone, just like you tried to do to Wei." The police arrived. Real ones this time, not ones on Wei's payroll. The evidence Jake had compiled was overwhelming, undeniable.
Sarah Park was led away in handcuffs, still screaming about justice and revenge and her brother's death. In the aftermath, Maya and Wei stood in the quiet hospital corridor, holding each other as chaos swirled around them. "It's really over," Maya whispered. "No more attacks, no more threats. Just us." "Just us," Wei agreed. "Unless someone else decides."
Stop! Maya pulled back to look at him. We can't live in fear of what might happen. We survived the Bratva, the cartel, a vengeful therapist weaponizing your trauma. We can survive anything. Together? Wei said, making it both question and statement. Always together. 6 months later, Maya stood in Wei's penthouse, looking at the document in her hands with something like wonder. "You're sure about this?" she asked. Wei nodded, smiling. "I've been ready for months. Yuri's been running operations smoothly. The transition's been seamless. I'm just making it official." The document was his resignation from active leadership of his organization, not disappearing to New Zealand, not running from his past, but evolving, stepping back from the violence while maintaining legitimate business interests, letting Yuri take control of the empire Wei had built while Wei himself focused on building something new. A clinic, a real one, properly funded, offering trauma therapy and medical care to people the system had forgotten, using his resources for healing instead of violence. "It's what you do," Wei said, pulling Maya close. "You heal people. You made me want to do the same." "And the physical recovery?" Maya asked with a smile, already knowing the answer. "Complete," Wei said, his smile turning wicked. "Dr. Park's replacement, the one who actually cares about healing instead of revenge, she's been amazing. Combined with your continued care and attention—" "Oh, is that what we're calling it now? Care and attention?" "Very thorough, very personal care and attention." He kissed her softly. "I'm whole, Maya. For the first time in 15 years, I feel completely whole. My body works, my mind is healing, and I have you. That's more than I ever thought possible." "Good, because I have news." Maya pulled out a small box from her pocket, flipping it open to reveal a simple, beautiful ring. "I know traditionally the man proposes, but screw tradition. Chen Wei, former crime lord, current healing center founder, complicated man I love with everything I am. Will you marry me?" Wei stared at the ring, then at her, then laughed with pure joy. "That's my line. I've had a ring for 3 months, waiting for the right moment." "Great minds," Maya grinned. "So is that a yes?" "That's a yes to everything, to marriage, to building this new life together, to being whole, to choosing love over fear." He took the ring, slipped it on his finger, then pulled out his own ring for her. Because apparently we're both sappy romantics who had the same idea. They kissed as the sun set over Chicago. Two people who'd found healing in each other, who'd survived impossible odds, who'd chosen to fight together instead of hiding alone. Wei's world had tried to destroy what they were building, had sent the Bratva, the cartel, a vengeful therapist weaponizing your trauma, had tested them with violence and betrayal and constant threat. But they'd survived. Not just survived, thrived. Building something new from the ashes of his old life, choosing wholeness over brokenness, choosing partnership over isolation, choosing love in a world that said love was weakness. 1 year later, they stood in that same clinic where they'd first started treatment, now expanded into a full trauma center. The ceremony was small, intimate, just the people who mattered. Yuri serving as Wei's best man, joking about how his boss had gone soft. Reina as Maya's maid of honor, pretending not to cry. Wei's mother sitting in the front row, beaming with pride, whispering to anyone who'd listen about how the brave nurse saved her son twice, once from death and once from himself. Maya's parents had come, hesitantly, but they'd come.
Seeing their daughter happy, successful, loved by someone who looked at her like she was the sun around which his world revolved. When they exchanged vows, Maya spoke from the heart. You came to me broken, dangerous, convinced you'd never be whole. I saw past the monster to the man underneath, the man who was brave enough to be vulnerable, strong enough to face his trauma, wise enough to know that healing is possible even in the darkest circumstances. I love you, Chenwei, all of you, and I choose you every day, forever. Wei's voice shook as he responded. You saved my life, but more than that, you gave me a reason to want to live. You took a man who'd spent 15 years broken and showed him that wholeness was possible, that vulnerability wasn't weakness, that love in my world wasn't just possible, but necessary. You're my healer, my partner, my home. I love you, Maya Torres, and I promise to spend every day being worthy of the gift you've given me. They kissed as husband and wife, and the small crowd erupted in applause. That night, alone in Wei's penthouse, now their penthouse, Maya found him on the balcony staring at Chicago's skyline like always, but this time there was no tension in his shoulders, no pain in his eyes, just peace. What are you thinking? She asked, wrapping her arms around him from behind. I spent 15 years convinced I was irreparably broken, that some things stayed broken. He turned in her arms, smiling. I was wrong. Nothing stays broken if you're willing to do the work, if you're brave enough to be vulnerable, if you find someone who sees you as human instead of monster. And now? Now I'm whole, completely, finally whole. He kissed her softly. Thank you, Dr. Torres Chen, for not giving up on me, for choosing to stay when you should have run, for teaching me that healing is possible. Thank you for being brave enough to try, for trusting me, for choosing to live instead of just survive. They stood like that, holding each other, looking out at the city that tried to destroy them, but instead had witnessed their healing. And in a small trauma center in Pilsen, the light stayed on late into the night, a beacon of hope in a dangerous neighborhood, a place where broken people came to heal, where violence could be transformed into vulnerability, where love proved stronger than fear, where two people had found each other in the darkness and chosen to build something beautiful from the ashes of their old life, where wholeness was always possible if you were brave enough to try, where healing never stayed broken, and where love, against all odds, conquered everything. The end. But the story doesn't end there, because 3 years later, Maya stood in that same trauma center holding their 6-month-old daughter, watching Wei teach self-defense classes to women who'd survived domestic violence, watching him use his knowledge of violence to help others protect themselves, watching him transform pain into purpose. And in the waiting room sat former gang members getting their GEDs, immigrants receiving free medical care, trauma survivors finding therapy they couldn't afford anywhere else. All of it funded by a man who'd once built an empire on violence and fear, but who'd learned that building something beautiful was infinitely more satisfying. All of it started because one nurse refused to be intimidated, refused to see a monster where a man existed, refused to accept that broken things stayed broken. Maya had saved Wei's life that first night in the emergency room, but the truth was simpler and more profound. They'd saved each other, and sometimes that's all healing really is. Two broken people choosing to be whole together, choosing vulnerability over armor, choosing love over fear, choosing to fight for something beautiful in a world that tries to break everyone. Sometimes healing is just choosing not to stay broken, and sometimes love is just choosing to stay when you could run. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is trust someone dangerous with your heart and let them prove they're worth the risk. If this story moved you, if you believed in Wei and Maya's impossible love,
If you're wiping tears or smiling or feeling something deep in your chest, then hit that like button and subscribe to Love and Tension. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and whether you'd take the risk Maya took. Would you choose love in a dangerous world? Would you fight for someone everyone said was too broken to fix? Drop your thoughts below. And remember, some love stories don't follow the rules. Some love stories are written in blood and tears and triumph. Some love stories prove that nothing stays broken if you're brave enough to heal. Until next time, keep choosing love, keep choosing courage, keep believing that broken things can be made whole. I'll see you in the next story.